Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspiring show coming right up. And our special guest today is Kerri Hummingbird. And she's here to share with us her new book, The Second Wave, Transcending the Human Drama. Now, Kerri is a soul guide who inspires people to lead their lives wide awake with an authenticity, passion, and purpose that makes a positive impact on others. She's been an activist and leader for over 3 decades, and she's the founder of the Skills Not Pills movement and the host of Soul Nectar Show. So let's welcome to the show, Kerri Hummingbird.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about your new book, The Second Wave. I have to ask you, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I heard a call from my guide a year ago, actually, saying, "You're going to write a new book this year." This was in 2019. And I said, "I am? Okay. What's it about?" And I heard the message, The Second Wave. And I said, "What's that?" I don't know what that is. And then I was guided to remember that I actually knew what it was. Dolores Cannon, if anybody in the audience is familiar with her work, she actually wrote a lot of books, The Convoluted Universe being one of them. She was a hypnotist, and she developed a very deep hypnosis state where people could receive quantum healing. It's called quantum healing hypnosis technique. And during that state, she actually interviewed a lot of people to find out more about them. She realized that she could communicate with some aspect of them that seemed a lot like their soul, a very deep, wise aspect of them. So she started interviewing them, and they were having this consistent message. Some of them would say, "I'm part of the first wave." Others would say, "I'm part of the second wave." And she's got curious, what is this? Well, what she found out upon questioning is that this is waves of volunteers to the planet. And so she wrote a book called The 3 Waves of Volunteers that everybody can check out. So when I got that message, I went back and watched the YouTube video that I remembered seeing a while back. And I was like, "Oh, that's right. Okay." And then I went into lockdown, because when I write, I channel information. And the less I know, the better.
Well, I agree with that, because then you're not taking information from somebody else's stuff.
Exactly. I'm not being influenced by what's out there. So I'm influenced by my guide. So I said, okay, so that's what we're talking about. Awesome. And I had some insecurity around it, because I thought, uh-oh, I'm really coming out of the closet now. There's no going back. People are going to know, that I'm clairvoyant, and I have channeling ascended masters and things. And I've got that awkward feeling like, oh, wow, this is really new to bring out in our current cultural paradigm. But I was also really excited by the messages that I was channeling in the book, because I was learning from them as well. And that's what I love about this kind of work and this kind of writing is the opportunity to channel a message from, a greater place, a beyond place, and to learn from it too.
Yeah, how important is that? And, I really applaud you, because, a lot of times it's really easy to listen to more information, and I wouldn't say it colors what our experience could be. So I really applaud you, but, for kind of diving into your own experience and channeling what's really there for you.
Yes, it was really interesting, because I would actually I would meditate first to get quiet, and then I would feel the urge to write, oh, okay, here it comes. I would feel the urge and get my computer and just start letting my hands go over the keyboard and not worry about it. I just knew if I don't pay attention, the words will be fine. And if there's a little misspelling someplace, I can go and correct that later. And so I really made an effort not to look at the words as they were coming out, because I knew if I started looking at the words, I would get distracted by it, and I would want to read what it said, and then I'd be out of the flow. So I really just kept myself typing, and then I would go back and review the section after, and it was like, wow, do I really know that? And then I would have to ask myself, is that true? And I'd have to sit and meditate with that for a little while and be like, well, it feels true. Okay, I'm going to go with it, because I channeled this thing and it feels really true. And it feels like amazing in my heart. And so when I got to finally share some of it with some friends who actually contributed reviews on my book landing page, they were blown away. They were like, "Oh my God, Kerri, this is amazing!" And that was validation. I needed a little validation to get out there with the message. But yeah, it's really amazing to do it this way.
Well, I love your book, The Second Wave. I thought it was really informative and just an inspiring read. And I'd love for you to share with our listeners, your story on how you're connected with White Eagle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, well, this is funny because on my journey of awakening, I have had many messages from my guide, White Eagle. And White Eagle is an ascended master of awakening. It's like specialty. And he does it with rainbow light activation. And so I've had a lot of interaction with White Eagle and known that I had, but not really known it to the place where I kept it in my conscious mind. Like I would have this realization, like, oh yeah, and then it would sink back under the surface of my consciousness for a while. So I had a really powerful experience about a week before I published the book, and White Eagle connected all the dots for me. It was a plant medicine experience, which I do work with plant medicine because I feel like it helps me to get out of my own way, helps me to tap into the larger force, the larger presence that is me, that is having a human experience, where I can be more clear. And I can get really powerful realizations and knowings in that space that then they get grounded in a way that sticks. So that's such a thing that happened to me a week before I published the book. And White Eagle came in and said, "Let me connect the dots for you, since you seem to have lost all the messages." I was like, okay.
Oh.
you know, so so basically, my journey with White Eagle has been my whole life. I was very fascinated by indigenous traditions. I remember being a child and wanting to go to the powwow, and my mom being like, "Why do you want to go to a powwow? That's kind of strange." But I really just felt called. I was very called by that, and I recently uncovered a poster of. From that time when I had a little Native American girl sitting on the ground, and I had a poster of that. It was something meaningful to me. So, flash forward, when I got into my awakening process, it was about 8 years ago. I hit a really rock bottom, and I started journeying. And there was one day I was journeying to some Sandra Ingerman, who has fantastic journey meditations, by the way, if anybody's interested in exploring this realm of visions and journeying. But she had this journey I was doing in the tub, actually. And this vision came to me of White Eagle. It came to me through a telescope, like this, like periscope opened up and came really closer and closer and closer and closer. And then all of a sudden at the end of the periscope was White Eagle. And I didn't know his name at the time, but I'm looking at this peace chief with his whole headdress and everything. And he said, "You will open the suns in their heart." And then he went away. I was like, "Wait, come back." Like that's not enough information.
I need more.
You need to come back. What was that? Open the suns in their hearts. How am I going to do that? So, and is it my job? Apparently he came to me and told me so. So here's this. So that was really my first introduction. And I started on this path of shamanic training. I got led to a teacher after decades of psychotherapy, which gave me some diagnoses and some low feelings about myself. I abandoned that mode and I opened up to spirituality. And I got connected with a teacher in Austin who does shamanic practice. And he started teaching us about getting out of our mind and into our experience. And in that space, I started doing the shamanic drumming and things, which is why I was listening to Sandra Ingerman. So along that journey, what reawakened within me was wanting to reconnect with my ancestry. I have a part of my ancestry that is Cherokee, and that part got severed because my great-great-grandmother was light-skinned enough to pass for white. And so she married a white man. And they quickly tried to cover up the fact that she was Cherokee by changing her name and losing that part of the heritage, because at that time in our world, that was shameful. So I lost track of that aspect of my ancestry, and I really wanted to have it back. I wanted that connection. I didn't know how to get it. My mom had tried, going through Ancestry.com and genealogy and things like that, and wasn't able to find proof of the connection. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go solve this with my shamanic journeying, right? Like there's a way to do it. So I started doing that on my own, and I was getting a little bit of success. I mean, White Eagle showed up in the thing, right? So in this meditation, right? So it's kind of working.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to the Smoky Mountains, and I visited the Cherokee replica village because I didn't know where else to go, and so I went there and I started asking around. The first time I visited there, is there a shaman or somebody that can help me to get reconnected with my ancestry? And at that point, I didn't get anywhere with it. But 2 years later, when I went back and I felt an even greater sense of urgency, like there's something missing. Like there's literally something missing from me and I need it back. Like I need it now. I don't know what it is, but it's important and I need to find it. And I really need help. And I think my level of desperation is what led them to connect me with somebody who actually could help me. And so they connected me with this man called Bruce. And Bruce saw the state that I was in and he said, okay, I'll meet you outside and after my shift in 15 minutes. So I started walking to where he pointed, and suddenly I felt this ball of energy come in through the back of my skull where my head meets my neck. And it expanded. And I had to sit down. I felt very dizzy. And I thought, wow, what is going on? And I could start to see the trees breathing. That was a new experience. And I thought, okay, I don't know what's happening right now, but this is really trippy. And I'm still here. I'm still okay. And later on, when I researched it, I found out that that actually is what they call the mouth of God. And it's a portal through which your ancestors can enter your being and support you. And so that's what happened for me. And it kicked off a journey that's been going on now for the last 6 years or so of healing and integrating an ancestor or an aspect of me from another life where there was a Cherokee peace chief there was a White Eagle peace chief on the Trail of Tears. And the healing process through working with this aspect of me or my ancestry has been really powerful. I felt the grief. I mean, there were times when I couldn't stop crying. I felt so much grief as if it was happening to me right then, like so much grief. And like beyond any grief that I could really have ownership of in my own life. So I had a lot to heal in myself as well. I had to learn how to honor myself. And so this aspect of my ancestry or of myself helped me to heal that part of me, the woman part that had been desecrated and demoralized and disinherited from my true nature. And so I've been able to reclaim that aspect of my heritage, my divine feminine, by working with this ancestor, as much as I've helped this ancestor heal the pain and suffering that he felt along, seeing his people in suffering. So there's been a lot of healing that's happened in this integration. And, this is one of the ways that White Eagle has been a part of my life and has sent me even greater messages. I was on retreat in Ausangate in Peru with the Four Winds and was hiking up to the top elevation at Ausangate, which has the Rainbow Lagoon, 16,500 feet. And on the trek up there, which is, it's a big trek and you could actually die going up that high if you're not healthy enough to make it. As I was hiking up there, everyone had walked right past this big pile of snow, that was hanging out to the right, and I could see it. And I walked over to it because it drew me, and it wasn't snow. It was a white eagle. It was a big white eagle on the ground. It had died. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's for me. So there was another white eagle message. So there's more stories like that where, just throughout my life, there's been these profound connections from White Eagle and probably most vulnerably was that my stepdad was definitely guided by White Eagle. He was just a beautiful, beautiful soul, really ascended master quality, just so much unconditional love that he demonstrated throughout my time of being raised by him from the time I was 5. He was a big part of it's like he was like a savior. My mom and I used to always say, if it wasn't for dad, we would not be who we are today. We would be suffering. And it's true. It's like he swept down and into our lives and made everything okay again. He was that kind of person, and his spirit just influenced people into peace. So that was my dad, and it's been a rocky road since my dad passed. But he also passed because I needed help to do this part of my journey, and so my dad is with me every moment now from the other side of the veil. So these are just some of the stories of White Eagle and how I've been integrated with him.
Do you think, and I'm so glad that you were able to share that story with us because it's such a beautiful story. You talk about, you talk about that connection in the book, and I think it really provides a lot of insight and hope for people that maybe are looking to develop a connection with their guides or have one and they're not quite sure what to do with it.
Yeah, because we doubt ourselves, right? Like we're kind of told that's crazy. We're told that's
Oh, yeah.
insane, you know?
Yeah.
And I can assure you that some people do think I'm crazy, and I'm okay with that. you know, I just think I think calling someone crazy is just basically saying I don't understand your experience because I haven't gotten to that level yet of knowing. And we are in a really amazing opportunity on Earth right now. We're ascending the pyramid of Maslow's needs, the hierarchy of needs. We're ascending it, and the pinnacle is self-actualization. And you can't do self-actualization without your soul. you know it doesn't work. You That's the part where you bring your soul in, where you fully embody in your human experience as your soul. That's the self-actualized part. So it is going to sound weird when you talk about this kind of stuff with people who aren't on that part of the journey yet. It's going to sound strange because to them, I remember thinking when I was even 10 years ago, I thought I was one thing. I thought I was solid. I'm called Kerri. All I am is a body, and this is who I am, and that's what I thought. And then I had, a really powerful spiritual healing where I experienced a piece of my soul presence hovering above me. I felt it. I experienced shame being taken out of my heart and removed and never to come back again around my heart. I felt that. I mean, there were some things I experienced that were so profoundly real that the reality, in quotes, that I had been part of up until then fell apart under the truth of what I experienced. And I think that's really the power of the self-actualization journey, is that we open to something that's so much more profoundly true that the reality we've been experiencing up until that moment falls like a house of cards. It is just a story. It's not the truth. The truth is like the ocean. The truth wipes away all the sandcastles we build. So the truth makes itself known, and when you know the truth, you can't unknow the truth. So you have to trust that. And also it's okay, for those of you who are waking up and saying, oh my gosh, I have an experience, but I can't talk about it because I know my family's going to call me crazy, or they're going to oust me, or, maybe I'll lose my job, or whatever the fears are. Take care of yourself third dimensionally, but don't ever doubt yourself. I mean, really don't doubt your truth, because that profound gift of knowing is priceless. There isn't anything better than that.
That's so true. I mean, when we go through our spiritual experience, I mean, it's such a personalized event. And I agree with you. I mean, if I didn't have some of the experiences I personally have, I'd be like, well, I don't know about that. Maybe I need a padded room or something. So, but I think most people feel that way when they're going through these type of experiences, and hearing about it helps them to identify, like, when I have my experience, or if I ever do, some of these things show up, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, you're not the only one, because this is the time of awakening. I mean, that's why things are shifting so quickly on the planet. I see it just in my hometown of Austin. In the last since 2011, things have taken off here in terms of spirituality and consciousness and knowing of these higher principles. It's amazing. So we're doing it together. And so my recommendation for people who are on the cusp of that or starting to experience that and wondering if they're going insane and I can't talk to anybody about this because people are going to think I'm crazy and I need a space to talk because this feels really real and important. Yeah, it's really real and important. Like it's the most real and important thing there is. It's just that, the reality that we come from doesn't leave space for that because that's the reality of the ego. So this doesn't want all this awakening stuff to happen. So I would just give yourself community, give yourself community of people who are doing the work so that you have people to talk to in a safe way about all this kind of stuff.
Do you feel that at this point in time that most of the people here are part of the second wave?
Well, the message I was given was that there was 10% of the population on the earth that is part of the second wave. And so I have to trust that guidance. I think that there are some people who came here to awaken specifically, that chose to be on the earth at this time because of the phase of evolution that we're going into with human consciousness, and to be a part of that transformation is very exciting. It's I like to think of it as birthing humanity into galactic consciousness, making humanity presentable to our neighbors, to other forms of civilization in the galaxy, that is helping us to raise our consciousness level to the place where sort of the embargo on earth can stop, and we can actually get along with our neighbors. So I think, and I think a lot of people think, well, we're the only life in the galaxy. Well, that's not reasonable to believe. It's just that we've been led to believe that because so far we've been a little bit violent, and unpredictable. And, we need to have a higher level of consciousness in order to play with new friends that have higher levels of consciousness. So that's the work we're doing here, really, in self-actualization. We're letting go of the egoic identity, and we're really shifting out of the reptilian brain and the limbic brain, which have been the primary brains on earth up until now. We're shifting out of that and we're shifting into the frontal cortex. And if you've heard of the work of Paul Selig is a channel of Christ consciousness, and I love his work. And those guides talk about moving us into the upper room. And the upper room is actually the frontal cortex. So we're shifting out of, the emotional brain and the instant reaction brain and the survival brain. And we're shifting into the divine consciousness brain, the frontal cortex. We're shifting into the upper room.
I love that. That's so empowering, and I really appreciate you sharing those insights with us, because I think as people can, kind of look at their journey, they can feel like, hey, I can identify with that.
Yeah, because we are, even if you notice in your own family, members of the second wave, here's one way you might identify yourself, is that you probably felt like you were born into a family where you were more the parent than your parents. Like it just seemed like you understood a little bit more about love and unconditional love than maybe your parents did. Or, you might have been the one to comfort your parents instead of the other way around. You might have noticed that, gosh, some of the ways that things are going on in my family, they're not quite right. And I know that they're not quite right, but if nobody else really knows that they're not quite right, that's another sign you're probably a member of the second wave. It's just, you just have a bit more self mastery. And it's because you're an older soul, you've just been around the block more, and you probably came in for this. This is just an invitation, if it resonates for you, then take it as your own. But, it's potential that you came in for this part of our human cycle to experience raising up the consciousness of a whole new species and being part of that, being part of bringing humanity into love consciousness.
Yeah, how important is that? So when we talk about, I mean, you mentioned your book, The Walking the Beauty Way. What is that? And what can we learn from that?
Yes, I love that you asked that. So, my insight into what we've been doing on Earth during this part of the evolutionary cycle is returning to a form of conscious understanding and a spiritual path that every single person on the earth can embrace because we all share the earth. And that would be earth spirituality. That would be connection to the earth. And there are some lineages that have been practicing a really pure form of connection with earth consciousness, which I call walking the beauty way. And these are indigenous people who, in the Americas, there's several different indigenous people that I've come across whose traditions encourage us to be very soft, very gentle, to be listening to the earth, to be in understanding that that everything has consciousness, that the rocks and stones are conscious and they can teach us, that the plant medicines, the plants all have consciousness and they can teach us many different things, that the trees are conscious, they're not just inanimate objects, they have consciousness. And we can become a part of that system by humbling ourselves and kind of eradicating some of these faulty notions derived from Charles Darwin, for example, that, humans are at the top of the species and everything is meant to serve us, because that's not true. That's not true. We are the keepers of the garden. We came here to keep the garden, and we came here to Earth School to learn. And our teachers are right here on the earth for us. The things that I've experienced and I know through my direct experience. And, it's something that everybody can discover for themselves. So we are opening to a new part of human understanding of the divine that's not coming from outside of you, somebody else telling you how it is. It's your journey to walk. It's your journey to experience. It's your journey to decide for yourself. It's your journey to listen deeply and to open to new possibilities. So that's really walking the beauty way, is to start listening to the earth and start, running experiments. Be curious, open up, try new things, listen to, open up to a new way of interacting with the water and the fire, with the elements, and get beyond your notions up till now of how you think it is, so that you can find out something new that might be even more rewarding than what you thought was true.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here to take a quick break. We've been speaking with Kerri Hummingbird in regards to her new book, The Second Wave. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed, and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
If not me, then who? This ethos is driving the Travis Manion Foundation to empower veterans and families of fallen heroes to develop character in future generations. In 2007, Marine First Lieutenant Travis Manion was killed in Iraq while saving his wounded teammates. Travis's legacy lives on in the 5 words he spoke before leaving for his final deployment. If not me, then who? Guided by this mantra, veterans continue their service, developing strong relationships in the community, and thrive in their post-military lives. Visit TravisManion.org and ensure the character of our nation's heroes lives on in the next generation. If not me, then who?
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with our special guest, Kerri Hummingbird, and she's sharing with us her new book, The Second Wave. Now, before we went for break, Kerri, we were talking about the earth and connecting with the earth. I'm glad that you shared that with us, because I think when people think about tapping into the earth, they're like, gosh, what would that even mean? What would that look like? In your book, you give some examples so people are like, okay, I kind of get it. I think I could start doing this as a practice.
Okay, so let me give an example of learning from an earth ally. I think that's what you're asking about.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So I started opening to this realization that stones and rocks and plants and things were conscious and had something to teach me when I started studying with the Four Winds Light Body School. And in the Four Winds Light Body School, they actually base their teachings largely upon the ancient wisdom of the Q'ero people, Q''ERO, of Peru. And in Peru, they don't have a lot of vegetation and things up in the Andes Mountains. They have a lot of rocks, right? So their spirituality really incorporates rocks and stone medicine, what they call cuyas, or medicine stones. So on the Four Winds path, you actually cultivate your own mesa, which is a medicine bundle, and you cultivate it with rocks, with cuyas. And each of the cuyas is there as a teacher for you on your particular spiritual journey. So it's kind of fascinating because when you do healings with the medicine bundle, people will come for a healing and they will pick a stone from my mesa, for example. And when I look at what stone they picked, it's always exactly the thing that I was healing when I was working with that stone in my own journey. So, for example, one of the first stones that I started working with, that stone helped me heal the need for validation, which is really important on this journey. You've got to heal yourself of needing other people's validation, because nobody's going to get your journey. Your journey is totally just yours. It's unique. It's a thumbprint suit. It's your journey. No one else is going to get it. You're the only one in there. You get to solve the puzzle of you. So it's important to heal that certain validation need. And so the stone that I healed my own validation issues with, that then people that come to me for healings and that say that that's what they need, they'll pick that stone and I'll know, oh, okay, this is having to do with validation. So in that way, the stone serves as an anchor point for certain things that need to be healed in others that I've already addressed within myself. So that's when I started realizing, there's something about these stones, it's not just a stone. There's something more to it. And I had one experience where I was up on Ausangate again at the Rainbow Lagoon. It's 16,500 feet up there. So it's really high up. And when you're that high, you get pretty high inside your brain. Like you move out of the limbic brain and the reptilian brain, and you're really in the frontal cortex. You're really high. And at that altitude and that state of being, you can hear the stones talk. Like, it's not like they say specific words, but you can just hear like a chittering or like an energy or like an excitement. It's like a crowd is cheering. You can hear that. And many of us heard it up there. We all, a lot of us were looking at each other and saying, the stones are talking to me. And we're laughing. We're saying, yeah, they're totally talking to us. I mean, it's just the trippiest thing, because you never think stones can talk because we're not taught that they can. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of stripping away all these filters of things that you thought were true. And being open to maybe you don't know everything, maybe there's mysteries to be unfolded on earth that would be delightful to explore, and opening to that journey. Like, that's super fun to figure out that rocks can talk, right? It's kind of
Oh my
fun.
gosh, it's pretty interesting when you look at life. It's so expansive if you look at life that way. It's like, what other things have I been glossing over because society tells us, these things don't communicate, these things don't matter, but they really do play a big part.
They do play a big part. And one of the reasons why ayahuasca is such a popular medicine right now for people with plant medicine is because people are starting to figure out that their brains have been conditioned to a really limited perspective of life on earth. And they're feeling like there's something really more that I could be experiencing, and I want to experience it. And I want the fast track to doing that, right? Like I want to get out of my stuck place. So ayahuasca is a really popular medicine right now because it helps you do that. If you take it in a conscious way with, a shaman who's really experienced with the medicine, not just sort of, a quasi shaman. There's a lot of that going on, but like an experienced person, you can really unlock some things in your brain that open you up to knowing a lot more in your life about yourself and your own consciousness and about the world at large that would surprise you in this moment. So I think it's, the reason people are taking that journey is because they're recognizing, hey, my brain has been conditioned and I'm enslaved by it, and I don't want to be enslaved by it anymore. I want to be free. I want to self-actualize. I want to really express myself in this world and in my lifetime, and I don't want to be held back.
Yeah. And one of the things in your book you talk about, which I really appreciate when, because we hear this all the time when people say, I'm empathic, and they talk about it as if it is a detriment. Like, oh, I can't go outside. I can't connect with people and all these things that they can't do. What do you feel about people who are empaths?
I think being an empath is some of the strongest medicine you can bring. I realized that I was an empath long after my psychotherapy days, but it's kind of one of those things that it's good to have awareness around it, that you are one. Because once you have awareness that you're picking up other people's thoughts and feelings, you can stop taking it personally and you can stop living other people's life's experiences inside of you and cultivate better boundaries around who you are and what your life experience is, what your thoughts are, what your feelings are inside your bubble, and get really strong in that knowing. And then you can stay where you are, but shapeshift into other people to understand them. Now that is a huge gift in this world. It's huge. Anytime I walk into a room, that's what I'm doing. When I do a group presentation or a lecture and I'm speaking right to somebody's heart, exactly the thing that they needed to hear, it's because I'm using my shapeshifter. I'm using my empathy. I'm reaching out there. Even if nobody's listening on the broadcast right now, I'm still listening out there to who's listening in the future, and I can feel it. And because I can feel it, I can say exactly the right thing that you need to hear right now. So that is the power of empathy, is when you train yourself how to use it correctly, it makes you unstoppable because you can walk into a room and you can know exactly what everybody in that room is thinking and feeling because you can perceive it at a really deep level. And then you can use that information for good. You can use that information to direct the flow of the conversation. You can use that information to open up people's hearts to something that they may not even be aware of in their conscious mind, but it's going on for them. But the moment you speak it, they have the realization, oh my God, that's what's going on for me. Wow. And that's an awakening. That's a realization. So I love empaths. I think that empaths, on one part of the journey of being an empath is realizing, oh my gosh, I'm picking up other people's stuff. And in that part of the journey, there's a tendency to want to hermit up, and get away from all those people. And that's just part of the journey, and that's okay. And so my encouragement is take that part of the journey to really shore up your own knowing of yourself and get strong and have good boundaries and cultivate that. But then don't stop there, because there's more ground to cover. Don't stop there. Then take yourself back out around people. Notice where you get triggered. Notice where you leave yourself, where you abandon yourself and you become someone else's experience. And, plug up the hole on that. And as you plug up the holes in the leaky ship, pretty soon it's got a nice strong bow and you can sail through the water. So, don't stop at the desire to be away from people because you're picking up their stuff. Learn some self-mastery tools to not pick up their stuff, but to become aware of it and be in service.
And how empowering is that when we
So
can get to that
empowering.
place? Yeah. Instead of going, I've got to shield myself because I could feel everybody's emotions and thoughts and, I'm picking up baggage and all that stuff from, being in this really empowered place where you're able to use it as a gift.
Yeah. And people really, one of the greatest gifts you can give somebody is witnessing them. Being witnessed where you are in your story, in your feelings, is the most powerful gift, especially when it's done without trying to fix you. So the more that empathic people can leverage their vast awareness about other people and let go of the need to fix people, the better in service they can be, because they can give that great gift of, letting people feel witnessed in so many ways more than words, right? Like letting people be witnessed by holding presence for people. Holding presence helps people get out of their story, because when you hold presence for somebody and you don't buy into their story, but you don't resist it, you don't try to change it, you don't try to fix it, you don't commiserate, you don't go, oh, you poor thing, you don't do any of that. You just be in presence in love with someone's story. The whole story crumbles because it's in the face of truth. And the story isn't true. It's a story that's been told, and it really seems true because there's a lot of evidence for it, but it's not true. It's a spider has spun a big web around the person, and it's their own spider, and they spun their own web, and they locked themselves in their story. And so we can witness, yeah, you're in your story, and I love you, and that's not who you are. But okay, I'm here for you. It's who you think you are right now, and I'm totally present with you through that. And to see something different underneath all that story. And that's the thing to hold on to, is that light underneath all the stories. That's the light underneath the crust. It's the truth that's being hid by all that story and all the evidence of it being true. Underneath is the light, and that is the truest thing. And so as empaths, we can feel through the crust and into the light of the person. And that's a huge gift to hold presence with that.
Yeah, because we never really know what a person's journey is all about. And to kind of get intertwined in their web, and their story doesn't help us and it doesn't help them, because they could be a master who's here looking to cultivate a better understanding of depression or anxiety or whatever the case is.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't be in service to others until we've experienced it ourselves, right? I mean, we have to go through it to know it on the inside out, and then we can help others. So there's lots of ascended masters on the plane at this time who look like wrecks. Like their lives so far have looked a little messy, right? Like it doesn't look perfect, but that's because those people came and they need to experience the patterns of suffering so that they can navigate their own way through it, solve the puzzle, and then hold space for other people to solve it for themselves.
Isn't that part of the saying is, you start your spiritual path and everything falls apart? It's because you have to have these experiences, in order to, if you're looking to be a healer or just, gain a greater awareness in one area or another. I mean, it's not just, going to be a limousine ride to where you need to go. I mean, you have to have some bumps in the road.
Well, and also you have to replace the whole foundation of your consciousness. The whole foundation of your consciousness has to be changed from conditioned thinking and, everything that started in your brain when you were just a fetus. That has to be replaced with the foundation of love. Like that's where we're healing the human consciousness with a foundation of love. So yeah, if you've ever played Jenga, you kind of have an idea of what we're doing. We're taking the bottom blocks out, and it gets a little wobbly, right? It's kind of messy.
It's very messy depending on who's playing. Yeah, I think it's just really interesting. What a great analogy that is, because it really does make sense. One of the things you also talk about in your book, and you kind of, hinted on this when we first started our discussion today, is healing our ancestors. I'd love for you to share with us just, what that means and why that's important for us at this time.
Absolutely. So we, in practicing the indigenous medicine from the Caro, as represented through the teachings that Alberto Villoldo shares from his own perspective, what I learned was that when we do healing sessions with people, we're helping them to heal some aspect of their consciousness. But actually what's happening is that the healing that happens within that person ripples out to affect the future ancestors that are coming, as well as the past ancestors, because the time is really fluid. It's not so set in stone as we think it is, like that happened and so it's done. Not really. I mean, energy moves both directions. So when we heal something in our own past, for example, I've done a lot of childhood healing with myself. When we bring that inner child into the now and we do healing with the child in the now, we send ripple of healing in the back through our life that actually ripples forward to the time until now. So it's a little confusing, I guess, but basically saying that any healing that we do on ourselves affects our ancestors 7 generations forward and 7 back. So this is powerful because what we're doing at this time is we're elevating human consciousness. And, a lot of humanity has been stuck in low patterns of thinking along, if you just look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can see most humanity is on like the bottom couple of layers of that triangle. They're not really there's a few that are getting close to the top on self-actualization, but a lot of people are, really stuck down below. Well, in order to move all that energy, we've got to do healing with the ancestors, because we got to shift the paradigm by unlocking and unleashing and releasing all that karma that got stuck and stored in our bodies. So that leads me to talk about epigenetics and how every single human being has contained within their whole body all of their ancestors' experiences, the good and the bad. So when we're born, we're like imbued with that in our ancestral DNA. So that's why sometimes you'll notice that in a family line, there'll be repeating patterns. So we all know we have repeating patterns in our own life. We see them. We're like, that's so irritating. We keep doing the same thing. You get frustrated with yourself. But that actually happens over generations too. So we get ancestral repeating patterns around incest, for example. And you can even not want to do that. I mean, you could not want to fall into that same pattern and then yet find yourself doing it anyway, almost like beyond your control. Like, I don't want to become an alcoholic. Here I am drinking. Why am I doing that? It's almost like I can't stop myself. There's a pull from the ancestry that's extremely strong. So what we're doing when we do a lot of healing in our bodies at this time on the earth is we're breaking up the strength of that pull so that we can break free from the ancestral karmatic patterns that have kept the planet stuck in a low vibration consciousness. So that's basically what we're doing, and it's powerful work. And you'll notice as you start to do it that eventually it might even work its way over into some of your family members. Like they might start opening up to some of the things that you've been saying. And they were like, no, I'm not interested. And then at some point along the line, they might suddenly go, you know what? I think I'm interested in that. I'm going to go do it. For example, my dad was never interested in acupuncture. I would say, come on, Dad, like, let's get over the Western medicine thing. Let's try acupuncture, or let's try this, or energy healing. And then I finally gave it up. I said, okay, forget it. You're not going to do it. So I'm going to let you just be you, and I'm going to leave you alone, because it's sort of spiritual smugness to like think you have all the answers and go tell your family like, hey, I found the one true path and y'all are just like totally astray and lost. It's really not, it's not a nice way to treat your family. I did that. So I decided I wouldn't do that anymore. So what happened was I left it alone. I said, okay, I'm going to respect you on your journey, Dad. Like whatever you want to do, I'm behind you. I support you, because he had a medical condition. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be there whatever way you choose. I love you. And that's the most important thing. And lo and behold, after I let that go for about 6 months, he went and tried acupuncture all on his own. So, I think that the medicine of the energy healing works on yourself. It ripples out to your family, and just don't get in the way of it by trying to proselytize it. Like, just let it be, let it work its magic on your relatives without telling them anything, because almost like if you get involved with it, their resistance kicks up. So it'll just happen all on their own. They'll just decide that they want to know about these things.
Well, and that's kind of the best way. Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I think everyone kind of does that when we first start. We're like, hey, look at all this stuff that I've been able to work through or to heal or to just manage. And when we go ahead and just, kind of look at our own process and say, you know what, I'm just going to live through, my example. And that will be kind of what speaks to them. Then they can, ask you questions, you can move forward,
Yeah, because they have to want it. They have to be willing, and they have to be fed up with whatever's going on that they're doing right now. I mean, that's the true for all of us, right? I mean, I had to be fed up with my story to give up 20 years on the couch talking about it to a psychotherapist and finally do something different. I had to get fed up enough to say, that's not working for me, to, jump ship and say, okay, universe, bring me the solution, bring me something new, tell me how I am going to shift this, because obviously I've been doing the same thing for 20 years. It didn't work. It's probably not going to work. I'm just keeping myself in a holding pattern. So challenge me, give me something new to try. We have to be ready for that. Nobody can tell you about it. You have to experience it yourself.
Yeah, that's such a big deal, being able to just walk that path. What final thoughts do you want to leave our listeners with today, Kerri?
What I'd like to leave people with is that this is really the opportunity in this lifetime and potentially the next few lifetimes to self-actualize. And it's really the only thing that matters, because it's the only thing you take with you. So, the Gucci watch and the Gianni Beanie pumps are really nice, but that's not going to fill you up at a soul level. It's a nice experience to have while you're here, but the work that's the most powerful is self-actualization. And the pathway to get there is, through the cocoon. And so if we think about the cocoon, the caterpillar, munch, 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 fills up belly and munch, 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 and eats a lot of leaves. And that's kind of what we're doing on Earth, right? Like, eat up all the resources, munch, 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 fill me up. I don't get enough attention. I need more. And what happens then, it's not a bad thing, because what that leads to is the cocoon, is the falling apart, is say, you know what, all that filling up didn't fill me up. I need something greater. I need something more. So I'm going to go in my cocoon and I'm going to get quiet. And I'm going to fall apart. And then I'm going to let, God, source, creator, universe, put me back together in the right configuration, my soul. I'm going to let my soul lead the way. And that's what happens in the cocoon. We gotta face the cocoon. There's no spiritual bypass to the cocoon. You have to let it all fall apart so that something better can fall together. It's the only way. But you don't have to do it alone, and it doesn't have to be big and dramatic, and it doesn't have to be scary. You can be midwifed into your soul existence with love and in community with support. You don't have to do it alone. So I encourage people, if you're really on the cusp of that awakening, or you've been at it and slugging it out, get some support, get yourself surrounded by community, and give yourself all the tools and resources you need to make it smooth, because it can be smooth. It can be gentle. It can be loving. And we got so much to do on Earth beyond that, like self-actualization. A lot of people are worried about the planet right now, the fires and the floods, and they see all this destruction happening on the Earth, and they're thinking prophecies and like, oh my gosh, humanity is heading for the sixth extinction, and this is awful. And I have this feeling inside of me that's gleeful, actually, that says, oh my gosh, no, this is just the part that people get fed up. This is the part where people say, that's enough. Okay, I'm going to go into the cocoon. And I think that's a glorious thing, because on the other side of the cocoon are 1 million or so or more butterflies. That's where the brilliance comes. People that are self-actualized, that have access to the brilliance of their soul, that's where all the answers are going to come from, that are going to create sustainability on the Earth for humanity. That's where it's going to come from, is from the brilliance of your soul. So that's why I say the only work that's important right now is self-actualization. That is the work we have to do to get connected to the earth consciousness, to walk the beauty way, to tune in, to get connected with our soul, and to walk as divine beings on the earth with all that brilliance flowing through us so that the answers for the world's problems come in a snap. It's like that quick. It doesn't have to take decades. It can happen very quickly. The work is just to wake up. Once we wake up, everything's going to change. So I'm excited about it. I think we're on the cusp of such amazing shifts in human consciousness. It'll blow your mind, which is a good thing. So I'm excited, Marianne.
I am too. My goodness, Kerri, we could talk for hours. I've always loved spending time. I've always loved spending time with you. Where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community and learn more about the second wave?
Absolutely. So for information about the second wave, you can go to my website, which is kerrihummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com. And there is a link to the book from that page that has a lot more information about it. And I have a free gift for your audience too, which is a way to play with me. It's called
I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. So this game I'm offering you is called the Love Mastery Game. It's an oracle game, and it's really easy and fun. And the way it works is that you come to it with a question, and then you roll the dice. You have to get yourself a 12-sided dice, but you roll the dice, and you look and see who are the allies that want to help me and what are the mastery principles I'm working on. What's the mastery principle of being that I'm working on with my challenge? And what's the mastery principle that I'm solving right now in my own life? Like, how am I coming into my self-mastery? It just gives you more insight into the soul lesson you're working on so that you can operate from a higher level. So that game is also at my website, kerrihummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com. /play. And and my work that I do with people is called Butterfly Circle. We help each other self-actualize. And so if you're interested in that program, it's a 1-year program. I've got entry points in January, May, and September into that program, and details are on my website.
Well, Kerri, thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm so grateful to be able to share these messages.
It has been such an honor to spend this time with you, Kerri. My goodness, your book, The Second Wave, is a great read. For those wanting to pick up a copy, you can at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or all indie retailers. And if they don't have it on the shelf, ask for them to order it. You can also find out more information about Kerri, how to work with her and have sessions at kerrihummingbird.com for more information. And there you can also learn about her show, Soul Nectar Show. It's a great show. You want to check it out. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.